It actually is possible not to think. It's possible to experience being present without being involved in the thinking activity. And when that happens, you're making contact with the real you. It will only be very brief in the beginning, right? Because you've got this bad habit called thinking, right? And when you're not thinking, you start to get restless. You start to get anxious, like, oh, I don't know what's going on if I'm not thinking. That's what you think. But you do know what's going on because awareness knows. Awareness has been the source of knowing all along. You thought when you knew something, you knew it, right? But now you're learning that the you, which is a personality, isn't even real. How could it have known anything? So you're just kidding, you've talked yourself into believing that you can know things, when in fact the truth has always been the same, and that is, it's the awareness that's the knower. It's the awareness that's the knower. And which means that you could not think and still know what's going on, and maybe even be more responsive and able to be skillful in the way you interacted with what was going on, because it's coming directly from wisdom and consciousness instead of being processed through your thought activity, which is conditioning. Because when it gets processed through your thought activity, it's an interpretation of what's going on based on how you feel, based on who your parents were, based on where you were born, based on the condition your brain's in, based on the condition your mind's in. So that could turn the basic truth of what's real, it could turn it into something completely different. And so now we have an explanation for what's going on here, because we're all walking around with completely different realities, or at least they're different enough that we're not on the same page a lot of the time, right? Yeah, that's because that's the way the interpretation process works. It's not going to give us consistent information because we're all processing it through a different conditioning process. There's no problem with dealing with time, right? Time is a convention, right? We use it, right? We use time, right, to deal with things that have happened and things that are going to happen, right? What I'm trying to get across to you is you can do that in the present without believing that time is real and there's a real past and a real future that you spend so much of your time being upset about or worrying about. Under the ordinary reality that people are living in, they got it backwards, right? They have the cart before the horse. They have the reality that they've been conditioned to believe in front of the truth, in front of the reality of who they actually are. That's backwards. You're backing into life. You're backing into life. Yeah. So if you want to be awake, if you want to experience what's actually going on, you've got to practice coming out of the dream state. And when I say dream state, I mean coming out of the living in your thought process. Because when you come out of living in your thought process, it's like coming out of a dream. It's like waking up in the morning from a nightmare. It's a relief. When people wake up and discover they're not a personality, they're this awareness that is free, has always been free, has never been limited, has got natural wisdom, has the ability to respond skillfully all the time, is happy just because it is, without a reason, it's its natural condition, is satisfied just because it is, it's its natural condition without a reason. Who could not want this, right? Isn't this the optimal possibility for living your life? And if it's the optimal possibility for living your life, then use that understanding of the availability of that possibility to commit yourself to practicing meditation. Because the practice of meditation is the practice that is going to bring you out of identifying with the personality. It will happen over time if you practice consistently, because every time you sit down and practice, you're practicing being yourself. You're practicing moving your attention out of the thought stream over to the awareness of the body breathing, and allowing yourself to experience the truth, which is that I am the awareness, and I am the awareness aware of the body. I am not the body. I am aware of the body breathing. I am not breathing. The body's breathing. That's what's happening when you're paying attention and not thinking, right? It's a direct experience of the truth. It's a direct experience. It's not dependent on believing anything. You don't have to believe something that you're experiencing directly. There is nothing clearer and more direct and more obvious than a direct experience of anything. And the most direct experience that's possible for you and I is the direct experience of the awareness that we are. And when we have the direct experience of the awareness that we are, it's not the personality having an experience of the awareness, by the way. When you have a direct experience of who you are, it's the awareness aware of itself. When the awareness becomes aware of itself, that's called enlightenment. Yeah, because if the awareness is aware of itself, now I can be that. I don't have to be something that I have to believe in. I can be what I really am. I don't have to defer to my thought process anymore. I don't have to defer to my personality. You say you're afraid of losing control, right? If you're willing to investigate this further, if you're willing to do an inquiry into that subject, what you'll find out is the truth is you've never had any control.